We're going to get started. If you're new, welcome to Eagle Peak. The bathrooms are right outside there, and we just cleaned them because middle schoolers make lots of fun messes in bathrooms. So anyways, they're right outside. Welcome, friends and family. I'm going to turn it over to our county CEO, Carmel Angelo.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you have just come in, please come in and take a seat. We have a really full agenda tonight, and I think that you'll get some good information. And so, please feel free to start writing out your questions, and ask as many questions as you would like. I just want to say that we're glad to be here with you this evening. We've been saying since October is Mendocino County is here. We're open for business, and we're here to work with you and assist you. And we will be here till the end of this recovery, and even after that. So at this point, I would like to introduce our first district supervisor, Supervisor Carrie Brown.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I thought back, it's been 6 months, and we've come a long way since that time. We need to recognize that, but we also need to realize we have a very long way to go. And that's what tonight's about, and the continuing of the county meetings and our recovery team, bringing the information to you, and you giving us information that we need to act on. I would like to thank our dedicated staff. They worked very hard and continue to do so. Our federal and state agencies that have partnered with us, the nonprofits, and other stakeholder organizations. I also want to make an announcement. You have a Redwood Valley Community Advisory Council, and they meet once a month. Right at the Redwood Valley Grange. But they have a very important meeting coming up in May, and I believe it's May 30th? May 31st. May 31st. What time?
6 to 8 at the Grange.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. 6 to 8 o'clock. May 31st, 6 to 8 o'clock at the Redwood Valley Grange. And this is to write a community plan, a new community plan for Redwood Valley. Your input is very important for that, and I hope you can attend. And also the Redwood Valley MAC members have been deeply involved in helping the county through this recovery process. So without further ado, I'm not sure, where's our CEO? Ooh, Tammy, you're up. Okay, Tammy Moss-Chandler, who's been directing all our recovery efforts. Thank you. You're on.
Thank you, Supervisor Brown. Really appreciate everyone coming out tonight on this sunny, beautiful evening. I'm going to actually ask Lieutenant Colonel Rayfield to come up with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He's going to give an update on where the U.S. Army Corps is at with debris removal operations. And then we have Eric Lamoureux here this evening with Cal OES. He's actually the Deputy Director overall of Recovery and Response for the state of California, Cal OES, and he'll give us some additional updates after Colonel Rayfield shares. So thank you, Colonel Rayfield.
Thanks, Tammy. I appreciate that introduction. Supervisor Brown, thanks for having us. I appreciate it. As you all know, tomorrow for the Corps of Engineers marks our 6-month anniversary from when we were asked to come out. As you all know, you've already survived the first 6 months from October 8th to 10th. I had part of my workforce, my normal day job as a San Francisco District Commander, and I had a few of my employees that live here in Mendocino County also dislocated by the fires. And so I can't empathize, I can't put myself in your shoes, but I can sympathize with the position. And one thing with that scale is the Corps of Engineers were asked to come and support the overall mission set here. And for us, we're at over 90%. For us in the 4 counties of Napa, Mendocino, Lake, and Sonoma, that 4,000 parcels across 4 counties was massive in scale. Over 300 are here in Mendocino County. And as of this point, we've had 272 where we've been able to notify the county that our process is complete. And so that's where we sit, is out of over 300, 272 are done. For Mendocino County, that's 124,000 tons of potentially contaminated material that the Corps, under our ESF3 function, has hauled away. So we came out and we have that limited role as the Corps of Engineers to take this stuff away. And we follow the guidance that we took from Cal Recycle and Cal ES, because as you know, they've done this for a long time to inform our operations. And we do this in support of FEMA, who's working with Cal ES. So it's one team and it's one fight to get through this process. So why we were here as the Corps of Engineers was just the scale. It was massive. And as I said, tomorrow marks our 6-month anniversary. We've taken in some of the issues and concerns from the community, and we've taken due diligence. We've spent a lot of time to go through them. And as a team, the ones that are not easy for us to solve, we're at that point now where I think some of our team members are going to start solving some of those solutions for us. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who's worked with us. The local government, it's been great so far, so please keep it up and keep inviting us. And for Cal ES and FEMA, it's been great to be one team as we try to solve some of the problems through this large-scale environment. How long is the Corps here? We're here for as long as FEMA and Cal ES requests us to be here. As the Corps of Engineers, we're also here in the community. I have 20 members of our workforce that live here that keep us tied to what's going on. So we're actually very concerned with how things move forward and look forward to working with the team here to keep moving to the next step, wherever that may be. So thank you for having us here. And in Mendocino County, like I said, we're over 90% complete. We're down to those few complex parcels where there's some issues that we really want to do due diligence on to solve for the community. So thank you for having us and appreciate the time. I'll be followed by Mr. Lamoureux if you'd like to come after me or if you're going to do another intro. Take care.
Good evening, everybody. How was everybody tonight? Frustrated? I can only imagine. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I can't begin to appreciate, for those of you that lost your home or have friends or family or fellow community members that did, how hard this experience has been. I've never lost my home. I've unfortunately had the opportunity to spend time in communities where folks have. And so I think I have a bit of a sense of what you're going through just from the experiences of having to try to help folks that are in the same boat as you. But I don't want to stand here and begin to appreciate how hard this has been and how hard it's going to be for you moving forward. But the Governor's Office of Emergency Services is committed to you today and will continue to be. What we're talking about today, Colonel Rayfield and I, are issues relative to debris. We're going to get through these. We're going to be beyond the debris real soon, but we're not going to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of places where we believe, the Governor's Administration and Cal ES, we can continue to be of value in helping Mendocino come back. And so even though in a matter of weeks we're going to be done with the issues that are in front of us, and hopefully be able to return to you a home site that you can rebuild on, there's a lot of work to be done. Many of you and your local leaders have been very vocal in letting us know there's more help we need from the state. And so on behalf of Director Gillarducci, who I'm representing here tonight, he was, the last time we had a town hall here, he had the opportunity to come up and join. We are going to continue to be with you. Recovery is a long process, and there's a lot of hard work involved in it, and you can't do it alone. We don't expect you to. And so I just want to make that commitment to all of you that Cal ES and state governments can continue to be with you, even when our federal partners who've been doing tremendous work in Mendocino and throughout Northern California leave, we're going to stay committed with you. What I wanted to spend some time talking about tonight, and happy to stay behind and answer questions, is this issue of over-excavation. It's a real issue. We know that. We as the state have been working with our federal partners to see if we can get to a resolution where obviously we can maximize and take advantage of both state and federal dollars to deal with this issue. We haven't quite gotten where we wanted to get as fast as we needed to get there, and the reality is that slow process, and it's been a slow process, is impeding your ability to recover. And so Director Gillarducci made a decision this week that we're going to be entering into a contract, and the state government's going to be taking responsibility for these properties where over-excavation has occurred. So there's going to be a process that we're going to go through. We're aware of a lot of the sites. The Army Corps has been tracking a number of these sites. We'll be looking at those. We also want to hear if there's something we're not tracking. The county is going to set up a phone number for you to call, make sure that you're on our radar. And we're going to be immediately sending staff out to look at your site. You know, these debris removal operations are tough because every time you do this, obviously you got to remove soil. And you know, I have responsibility for currently 5 disasters going on throughout California. But before I got the job I'm in right now, I had to spend 7 weeks in Sonoma County immediately after the fire down there, helping Sonoma County through the process of the 5,000 homes they lost. Participated in 35 town halls, many of which you had the same thing going on here. My colleague Jody Travisero attended. And the big question always was, well, what about the soil you removed? What are we going to do about that? And obviously our response was, you're going to have to bring some soil back in. We're removing that contaminated soil. You're going to need to bring some soil back in to be ready to build. But unfortunately, what's happened in some situations, we took too much. And I say we because we've got a collective responsibility to do the right thing and meet your expectations. And in some cases, we didn't do that. And so we want to work to make that right. We want to hear the input from Lee and others that have been your advocates and county officials. And we want to look at those properties. We've looked at some of them. We're going to go back and we're going to look at them. And we're going to do this quickly. And we're going to look at, based upon what we're seeing, we're going to be there with county building officials based upon the home, how it was constructed, what we're seeing in front of us right now. Did we take too much soil? And if we did, the contractor that we're going to be working with is going to be returning that soil and putting it back on your land to conditions that meet the requirements that the county will lay out. So this is going to be done in partnership with the county. This is not something we're going to do unilaterally. We're going to be talking with you, we're going to be communicating with you, and we're going to be moving very quickly. My expectation is that we need to get through all of this in a matter of weeks. This is not something that can drag out for months. So I can't commit to you tonight when we're going to be through this, but I can tell you that we're going to get through this as absolutely quickly as we can. So, you know, with that, I just want to reiterate that, you know, these types of operations are monumental. I know we lost nearly 400 homes here in Mendocino County, and for you, that's catastrophic. As you're probably well aware, across Northern California and into Southern California, we've lost 11,000 homes and businesses. So we had our work cut out for us. We attempted to do the best job we could with the resources we had at the state side and the federal side to get through this as quickly as possible. And I am very proud, and I will say that, I am very proud of the work that the Army Corps and their contractors did. It wasn't perfect. These operations are never perfect. But in just over 4 months, we've removed ash and debris from 4,000 homes, nearly 4,000 homes across just the North Coast, North Bay area. And that's remarkable. We've never done anything like that. And I don't say that to try to puff us up, but to try to put into some perspective how challenging this operation was. 4,000 homes here, another 300 homes inland in Nevada, Butte and Yuba counties. In Ventura County on the Thomas Fire, next week we'll be done removing debris from 700 homes down there. And the Army Corps partners in Southern California removed millions of tons of ash and debris from channels and debris basins in Santa Barbara, where we had just an absolutely catastrophic landslide through Santa Barbara and the community of Montecito. So we've done the best we can. We haven't been perfect. We needed to do better. And I apologize that we haven't been able to address these issues as quickly as you expected us to. But I think we're going to make some progress now, and we're looking forward to working with Mendocino County. And in those situations where it's appropriate, there's going to be some situations where we're going to look at it, and we're going to tell you the amount of debris that was taken here was the appropriate amount of debris to make sure that we got rid of all the contaminants. Okay, so we're going to do those assessments, and we'll be very clear and transparent with you when we communicate that back. But where there are those situations that we took more soil than we needed to. We'll work to get that addressed as quickly as possible. So thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes talking with you, and thanks, Carmel, for the invitation.
Thank you, Ed. So please, if you have specific questions, use your card, and we'll have time for question and answers in just a little bit. I wanted to make sure, though, that you all see there's actually a phone number the county set up, like Eric mentioned, and that county went into effect, that phone number at the county went into effect today, and out on the back table is this flyer. It's yellow and green, so it stands out. And you can either email or phone. So we know many of you have already reported your concern. If you have this concern that too much soil was removed from your property, you've reported that to the U.S. Army Corps through their phone number. And if you've done that, we're pretty sure we have your complaint already, and we know many of you. But we want to make sure that we have all the concerns, because we are setting up what we call in government a joint command structure with the state and the county together. And this is very different than what's happened so far, that we're going to be working every day side by side together to address this issue of over-excavation and to make this right as quickly as possible, as Eric said. So we want to make sure as a county that you're calling this in. The U.S. Army Corps is still following up if there's an issue or concern, like there was some debris left on your property that didn't get picked up the first time around, or you have some other concerns. You can continue to use that 877 number, but if your specific concern is that too much soil was removed, the phone number is 707-234-6076. And again, there's a flyer for everyone who's here, but if someone's watching online, it's 234-6076. And you can leave a message on that line 24 hours a day with your specific information, and a county employee will get back and follow up as quickly as we possibly can to address these issues in coordination with the state as we work through the processes of how we'll go about this over the next week. I also wanted to just follow on one other update that Supervisor Brown shared with you at the beginning about our work with the Redwood Valley MAC, and I'm grateful to see Sheila and other MAC members here tonight with the Redwood Valley MAC. Actually, we have Debbie Ramirez and Katrina's here, and Sheila Rogers. So, oh my goodness. Oh, and Cassie Tanning in the back. So a lot of MAC members who have been such amazing partners through this. So at the next Redwood Valley MAC meeting that was originally scheduled for May 9th, we're actually taking that evening, and we're going to be working in partnership with the Redwood Valley MAC at the Grange to actually roll out all the projects that the County Board of Supervisors has been looking at for grant funding in partnership with our state and federal partners, and getting your feedback and the broader community's feedback about those specific projects that we're working on right now to help with the long-term economic recovery. There's some grants for housing strategies that we're pursuing for state and federal funding. And these are about long-term improvements for the county: infrastructure, housing, economic development, and health and human services. So we'd love to get your feedback that day, and then for that to be the introduction for the bigger meeting that's being planned for the community plan on May 31st. So you'll be getting a mailing that's going to go out to everyone in the Redwood Valley area to invite you to those two special meetings in May in partnership with the MAC that the county's hosting with them. So with that, I wanted to actually ask Kevin Cox to come up because of the amazing work that he's doing around our long-term recovery committee called MROC, that's really helping individual fire survivors through the care coordination that you're getting through the resource room, and a variety of committees that we've set up for immediate assistance for fire recovery. And so actually I'm going to ask you, Kevin, to share a little bit about your work and what you're doing specifically with Mendocino County tonight. And would you like this on the stand?
Thank you, Tammy. Tell you a little bit about us. Hope City is the name of a project that we give when we come into an area. We are a volunteer disaster relief organization. We serve disasters all over the country. We're very privileged to be a partner with Cal OES and well vetted by Cal OES and FEMA. We have some wonderful partners there. But our goal is to come into a community and work with the families that were impacted by disaster. We partner with a local long-term recovery program. In this case, it's the MROC, and they're very blessed to have the county sitting at the table as well. So I have to tell you, Tammy is a rock star. So you guys are very privileged to have Tammy working on your behalf. She has such a heart, and that's what we desire. Carmel, the whole crew, they want you to be able to find a way to get back home. If you do not have the resources, that's why we're here. We are a rebuild team that can come. We open a camp. We bring in volunteers from all over North America. We have a lot of teams from Canada and the US, and we really rebuild homes at no cost. We do not charge for any of the work that we do, but we work through MROC. So the Mendocino Rebuilding Our Communities, they have a core of case managers that are in the resource room over in the Ukiah Conference Center. I think I got that right. And they are there Monday through Thursday till 2 o'clock. You can also give them a call. But as that resource, what we do is we're a faith-based organization, and we believe in the rebuilding of lives and rebuilding of homes. Through that process, we spend a lot of time building relationships with the homeowners and those that we work with. We count it a privilege. My family, we had a ranch here in Ukiah for about 45 years, just off of Low Gap, and so this community means an awful lot to me. Kind of considered it my second home. And so we want to make sure that we're here to be able to provide what you need, when you need it. You know, things look bleak, I get it, but there is hope, and that hope comes in many different ways, whether it's through the federal government, the state government, your county government, or through just a bunch of volunteers that just come and give up time to come and help you, to encourage you. We're a part of that. And so we have 2 home designs that you'll see in the back that we offer. We have a 960 square foot home, and we have an 1,120 square foot home. We do not build other people's plans. We build the plans that we have, and we have these done and submitted through the county for approval. The reason why we don't work off other people's plans is because our volunteers travel across the country with us, and they're used to building the same house over and over. So if we were to throw a curveball at them, you know, and they were expecting a fastball, they're going to be a little shocked. So we are going to stick to the plans. We do have a third option that's coming, and that is a granny unit, a smaller piece. We're working with the school in San Francisco. I believe it's called the Arts and Academy. I just can't remember the name on the wall when I was there. They are designing the first granny unit for us, and they're going to come and build that granny unit as well. So I'm very excited about that partnership. My heart breaks for you. We do these disasters all over the country, but I never expected it to be in my backyard. I grew up in Santa Rosa, much loss there. We're rebuilding homes in Lake County right now. I spent my summers in Lake County. We're halfway through the number of homes that we're building there. And then over here in Mendocino County. So we have a really firm connection to all 3 of the counties that we're working in. And we just want you to know that you're not alone. This county loves you, and they're going to stand by you and help you provide what's needed when you need it. So I'll take questions afterwards, and I'll be back at the boards to answer more. But again, I just want to remind you that we're not giving out business cards. We're not here to give you brochures or anything. All of our work is done through MROC, and you will contact MROC for the housing. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Eva King. I'm a case manager with the Mendocino Rock Resource Room that Kevin was referring to. So just a little bit about who MROC is. We're a resource room. We're trying to pair fire survivors up with the current resources that are available, as well as information on your path towards recovery. So the resources change a lot. One thing I really want to stress is if you've talked to us, if I've called you in January or February, it's really important to continue to come back into the resource room, check in, because the resources are changing a lot. So I'll get into a little bit more about what those resources are, but one reason to come in is to find the resources, to find the information. Another reason to come in and talk with us is the case managers are trying to get a pulse on what you guys are going through. We go to a lot of meetings with the county where we want to try and represent fire survivors and what your issues are. So if you feel like you've been over-excavated, if you feel like you've appealed with FEMA for the 7th time, we want to hear that because that's part of the narrative of what people are going through. With that being said, what are the resources? So the Critical Needs Grant is one of the grants that we rolled out a few months ago. It's for a few different reasons. The foundation of the grant is really based on removing a barrier to stable housing or removing the ability to earn income. There's also, a lot of people have been using it for utility restoration, things like replacing power poles or water tanks. The Critical Needs Grant is based on a vulnerability score, but that being said, a lot of people qualify. One of the main questions that we get asked, which I'll just jump on, is if you're insured, will you still qualify? And the answer is definitely yes. I can't say I've talked to someone yet that said, I'm overinsured. So come in, find out more about the Critical Needs Grant. Another is the Kids Activity Fund. So this is for 18 and under kids who lost their home in the fire, and it can be used for whatever your kid's into, really. Art, sports, music, if it's a camp or a class, just replacing some supplies. Again, come in, find out more about how to apply for that grant. Another one is the therapist program, which the Spiritual and Emotional Needs Committee rolled out last month. They've gotten, I believe, 16 therapists to sign up pro bono to speak with fire survivors. So if you, a family member, a neighbor are going through a hard time and want to talk with someone, reach out to us or to California Hope, which has some brochures out front to get hooked up with a therapist. Hope City, that Kevin was just talking about, is another resource that we're able to talk about in the resource room and take you through the process. It doesn't fit in with everyone's plan, but it's a really good option for a lot of people. So come in, find out more about that as well. The last thing we've been doing a lot of is just helping with appealing to FEMA. If you just want someone to be there to help you call, to figure out why they denied you again, please come in, we can help you. We've done it before, we'll do it again. The last resource that I really want to emphasize is actually just my coworker, John Kennedy. John is almost an everything man. He has a background in mortgage lending as well as a really amazing knowledge on building and planning and permitting. So if you're in the process of rebuilding, just want someone to talk with about your plan or unsure what your plan is, contact the resource room. You'll probably get me and I'll direct you to John. I say almost everything man because he's a terrible artist. I've seen him do plot plans and it's really bad. But yeah, John, if there's anything else that I've missed, feel free to shout it out. But
always do a perfect job of the
all right. So I'll pass it on then to Tammy. Oh, where are we? Sorry, one thing. We are located at the Ukiah Valley Conference Center. It's at 200 South School Street. We're in the back room, the Riesling room. We're open Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Or you can call us and we can schedule an appointment. So our number is 621-8817. 621-8817. Stuff online, pamphlets out front.
Thank you, Eva. So there are those brochures and flyers with all the information Eva just shared about contact information and location out on the table. And I really want to thank NCO, who's our lead nonprofit partner for case management, and the Community Foundation that really has allowed for case management to be here since the beginning and continue even as we were waiting for federal support for case management. And the work that case management can do for you, we're really trying to make sure that the resource room has information as fast as possible so that they can give you the most current resources. And I'm amazed sometimes they know of a resource that's happening through a nonprofit or philanthropic group, even before I do learn it. So we're really trying to make sure they have any current government information from us, and they're trying to get that information in one place to help you with the diverse number of needs and your own specific situations that you need. So thank you, Eva, for sharing that. You know, I asked Mike Oliphant and Marlena to present tonight from Planning and Building Services and Environmental Health because they did a presentation that we didn't get to record on the morning of the Rebuilding Expo. So for the few of you who were there on Saturday morning, March 24th, they gave a really helpful presentation. But tonight we've asked them to do a very abbreviated intro to that, and they'll come back next month and share even more in detail. But they're going to introduce you to the key concepts that they shared that night. Many of you have heard those, but at least they can introduce you to the resources they have here tonight and help with some next steps. So thank you, Mike, for sharing.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm going to cut this 25-minute presentation down to 5 minutes at the most, and basically just want to run down what's required to get a building permit. All of our information is offered online. If you don't have internet access, call us, we can mail it to you, or come on down. We will even sit with you and guide you through all of the steps. Once you have your plans prepared and information ready to submit, we expedite all fire survivors' plans, so they go immediately to the top of the queue. So far, as of today, we've already issued 48 permits for new residences and structures for fire survivors, and we have 19 in the queue. And those 19 are being reviewed right now, and within the next 5 days, we'll probably be through those 19 as well. So briefly, what's required for a plan submittal to get a permit? You need 3 sets of plans drawn on a minimum 11 by 17 inch paper. And I have packets with everything from permits, applications to plot plan maps to frequently asked questions in the lobby there, lots there. So we also need 2 copies of engineering calculations, if applicable. Not all single-family residences require engineering. If you're building standard conventional construction that conforms to California residential standards, engineering will not be required. You will need 2 copies of California energy compliance. That's Title 24 documents. And there are at least half a dozen people around Ukiah who do those documents for you. And you will need CAL FIRE approval if you are in a state responsible area. That's outside of the valley floor. Within the Redwood Valley Fire District, you will need the local fire department's approval. And we're going to be talking with the fire chief tomorrow more about that. And as many of you know, the county just passed a recent revision to the Class K ordinance, and we get a lot of calls and a lot of interest about that. And so the new revisions are in effect. They are subtle changes. Fire sprinklers are not required in Class K homes. The wildland urban interface requirements, the exterior fire treatments on homes are required. The state fire marshal has determined that there's no leeway on the exterior wildland urban interface requirements. Also with the Class K ordinance, you are exempted from the Title 24 energy compliance. I do need to point that out because that's an important step that may benefit some of you. And I will be here all evening if you want to ask questions later. You can come down 5 days a week to planning and building. We have many staff who will meet with you, sit down with you, and help you through this process. And I'd like to introduce Marlena. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Marlena Bourbonnais-Dooley. I work at the Health Department. We share a counter with Planning and Building. You'll find us all there. I think some of you already have. But I'm going to highlight 3 specific things for you guys. what environmental health looks at when they review your building permit application, what we're looking for and what you can expect. And if you find that your septic system needs repair, some repairs require permits and some don't, so I'll give you the quick list of those. And if you're in a situation where you need a whole new septic system, new tank and leach field, I'll briefly go through the basics of that process. So, when environmental health receives one of these expedited fire rebuilds, we're looking for two really specific items. Your bedroom number, we want to make sure that that is like for like compared to the structure that you lost. If you are rebuilding a structure like for like, and your new structure meets its setbacks to your existing septic tank and leach field, environmental health has no other requirements of you, and we will be approving that right away. If you're rebuilding larger, that's fine. It just may trigger a septic review, and that may require you to hire a septic designer if you don't have sufficient leach field for the size of structure you're proposing, but we'll work with you on that if that's your scenario. And no matter what, we're going to make sure that your new structure meets your setbacks to your leach fields and septic tanks that we have on record. So we're not going to let you build on top of a leach field or a septic tank unless you have a plan for replacing that. So number 2 is repairs. The list for what doesn't require a permit at environmental health is pretty long, so I'm going to go the other way and tell you what you absolutely need a permit for, which would be replacing a septic tank, replacing a pump or a pump tank in the pump's panel, and digging new leach fields. So everything else, all the pipe between the house and the tank, the D-box, even the perforated pipe in existing trenches, you can repair or replace that without getting a permit from environmental health. And I've got copies of that policy here, and I can give that to you. But if you find that you do need a new leach field or septic tank, we have permits for those. Septic tank replacements are pretty easy. They're over-the-counter permits. I brought a couple applications with me if you need one. They do not require a septic engineer, but you should hire a licensed professional to install them and call us to come out for an inspection on that tank. And if you need a new leach field, a new dispersal system, then you're going to be in the place where you need to hire a septic engineer. We've got a list of people who work in our area. Anybody who holds one of 4 qualifications, which is a geologist, a soil scientist, a civil engineer, or a registered environmental health specialist, can do that work. They don't have to be on our list. And they're going to come out, they're going to take some soil samples, at least 2 places on your property, and turn in a report. We're going to review it and approve it and let you, the homeowner, know that your plans have been approved and you can come in and pull your construction permit, when and how much, and then you build it during the dry season, which is May 1 to November 1 when it's not raining, and we come out and do a final inspection of that. So that's the quick version of septic, and any of your follow-up questions I'd be happy to answer, and we'll be back.
Thank you, Marlena. So we're going to ask everyone who's a state or federal partner, they need to be prepped with Zoe over here for questions and answers, please. If you have a question card, please raise your hand, and we're going to go through the questions that we've received so far. We'll stay here as long as we need to answer your group questions and your individual questions tonight. So the first questions, I'm going to start with a couple, and then folks are going to come up here with some others. So the first question I have here is related to PG&E, and we actually have our PG&E government liaison, Allison Talbot, here tonight. So one of the questions for PG&E is about the agreements of what they're going to pay for around service provisions, what's waived and what's not. And especially for this customer, they're actually moving where their house was, and there's some discussions about is there some difference or exception or something that has to be made. So Ron, I'm going to actually ask Allison to wave her hand because she's actually going to take down your information and personally follow up on this specific PG&E issue. And Allison will stay after the meeting to help address that particular concern that you have on your property. And then there actually is also a question around the markings on trees. And I'm actually going to ask Howard to come and share a little bit of what he knows about the markings on trees that are the county's. This particular question is about the marking on trees that has an orange marking for removal. And this customer was under the impression that this would be removed for power safety. So Allison actually will explain the PG&E markings on trees. And we're not sure yet if this isn't either of those, we'll follow up. And then Howard will tell you about trees that are marked by the county and what those look like. So thank you, Allison, if you could share first.
Thank you very much. I have to admit, I texted my tree colleague, and thankfully they got back to me and said that this year's routine tree work, not necessarily fire-related, just annual trimming, the color is orange. We don't yet know when the work is scheduled to be complete. We can have someone contact the questioner, who I think may be the same questioner I'm going to speak with at the end of the meeting, and get some locations and try and get a sense of when those trees will be removed. It's going to depend on which circuit the trees are on. It's like read to you guys from a text, but that is what I am able to share with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Allison. While you're up here, will you tell us, you also had tree markings that were marked for this specific fire, and can you share those with us now, or come back? You want to come back? Okay.
What I can share is that you may have seen some trees marked P1 or P2. P stands for priority. The P1 obviously was the first to go. The P2 was a lower priority but still needed to go. Some of the trees, as I'm sure you guys are more aware even than I, it's been a dynamic growth system, and some that we thought, our foresters thought, were going to make it through the fire, in the end did not. So some of the trees have been marked more recently, and they're going to be taken at the same time as the routine tree work because the larger fire crews already left. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. So as we get more updates on that timeline, we'd certainly want to share those. And then Howard, do you want to talk about your markings that are out on some trees?
So any of the trees that the county is looking at have a white tag on them with a number, a big number from 1 to 1,000, and then it's got the phone number of our department. So if you find one of those, you just call the phone number that's on the tag, and we can tell you about it, but all ours are white. We're having those evaluated by an arborist, and if they're truly dead and are going to fall down, then we're going to let a contract later this year and actually have a tree company remove them. But right now, we're just getting the arborist out there to evaluate.
Thank you, Howard. So I have another question related to trees, and this one says that if there's burned tree abatement on private property, will there be enforcement for removal if it's not being done? So I think if you have trees on your private property that are marked with some of these markings that you've heard from PG&E or the county, then there's a plan for that to be done. And certainly if you see an immediate hazard, we want to know that. And like Allison shared, priorities might shift to get something that's of immediate danger or taken care of. But we know there's a lot of burned trees on private property that there is no abatement plan by any entity to address those. So if that, I'm not sure if this specific question is about a tree that's marked or more broadly, but we know that the removal of burned trees on private property is a concern, and we're continuing to learn that if you have a very large property, there may be some solutions through working with CAL FIRE, but there's a lot of exceptions to that. But one good news thing I want to tell you tonight is that we're grateful that we have Ron Rogers here tonight. Oh, Bob Rogers, I'm sorry, Bob. And Bob is here at the table over here, and he has flyers in the back that he's part of the local Rotary Club's regional effort to do reforestation, and they have tree seedlings, and he has all that information on the back table, and he'll be here after the meeting to share that with you. And the flyer actually on his table is called Post-Fire Conifer Reforestation. And it's a partnership between the local Resource Conservation District and the South Ohio Rotary. So thanks for being here tonight to share this opportunity with folks. All right, with that, I'm going to ask Marlena and then Mike to come up and address your specific questions.
So this question states that the Army Corps contractor covered a marked septic tank, and now do we need to relocate it? I'm not exactly sure, but if it's covered in dirt, are we talking about finding it and utilizing it? We might want to, yeah.
It was marked, but now we can't. Maybe the question was
It was marked, but
now we can't locate it, so it was marked.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need help to locate it.
okay.
Right.
When they finished their cleanup, did they leave you your clean out pipe? A lot of times where they left they took the foundation, there's a 3 or 4 inch pipe sticking out oddly nowhere.
No.
And do we have any maps?
There's many. Yeah. So it was marked, you have a plumber come out to try and locate it, and they can't find it. So there's too much soil over the area where it had been marked.
I look at Mike, I'm like, Mike, well, you get this call way more often than I do.
One of the ways that they can be located if there was no fiberglass risers is a metal detector. The handles on the septic lids do register.
Yeah.
And they're long like rebar bar that are in there. They can be located. I'm sorry. Okay, we do locations. One of the ways you can do it is, on your own if you wish, is to find a metal detector. There is a rebar bar that is in the square or round lids, and they do sound off, unless they left a lot of metal like in my place, but in general. The other way is to do it is, do you remember where you marked your leach field or where the leach field was?
Well, okay, so the issue, I'm going to take a step back, was that it was located and marked.
Yes.
And then when the Army Corps came in to remove the debris, they moved the marker.
Correct.
So it was marked.
Yes, I understand that.
So now
I'm with you.
Well,
From my heart.
I'm just talking about like whose responsibility is that to relocate it, because it was marked before where the soil was moved.
That one I would not be. I'm not
Okay, so
I'm a private individual here.
Right, that's my question.
But if you need it located, we can do a reverse. Is if you know where your field is, send the camera back down your field to the D box. Find the D box, which should be done anyways, because they ran their equipment all over your property, and then go from the D box back to the tank. Right. Whose responsibility it is?
Yeah,
that's going to be somebody else's question. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. So thank you for sharing your expertise. And I'm sorry, I couldn't actually hear exactly what the issue was because it wasn't on the mic. But we're grateful that we have Mike here as a local plumber and expert. And so I'm going to actually take that question from Marlena, and we'll see what else we can address while Mike comes up and answers the question.
So with all of the previous community meetings that we've had numerous building questions, and tonight I only have one. And it makes me think that hopefully we're getting the education out there and the knowledge that everybody needs out there. This particular question is, we plan on building a home on Foothill Drive near West Road. Will we need to install a water tank to supplement water pressure for newly required ceiling sprinklers? So in a typical regular building permit that has sprinklers in the home, that sprinkler system is drawn by a C16 state contractor. That is a contractor specifically for fire sprinklers. And there are many C16 contractors around, and it's typically just a one-page plan. And if you do not have adequate water pressure, then yes, you will need to add a tank. But the tank could be as little as 300 gallons. Because in a fire sprinkler system in a typical residence, only one head goes off at a time. where the fire originates. And often, it just takes that one head going off to suppress that fire. That's why a tank as little as 300 gallons is often that's all that's needed. So I want to add to that, many people want sprinklers in their home, and they're doing these permits. But I just want to remind you again, the recent revisions that were just adopted do not require sprinklers in Class K structures. So if you opt to go with the Class K, then that's how the board voted, and they had a lot of expert advice from many different entities, and that was the decision made. So I wanted to provide all of the options there for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So, Troy, I want to just tell you that it's true. We don't have an easy answer. The question is that through the debris removal process, the septic tank was covered, and if the county doesn't have copies of the plans and you don't as a property owner, it's going to be really hard, which is what Mike was saying. And there's not really a really clear issue resolution, but this should be an issue that we continue to look at how best to help. And the county will pull and see if there's anything in our records on either environmental health or planning and building side to help you in their records, and they will do that in the next 24 hours to get back to you.
Ma'am, can I
Yes,
ask you, I'm sorry for speaking out. The gentleman's question was, whose responsibility is it to uncover it, since he had it well marked, and like in a lot of situations, they covered it up. They moved the marks, they went over, disallowed. That's what his question is. I think he really wants to find out where it is, but he wants to know whose responsibility is to dig down 3-4 feet to find the tank. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I just asked my state partner, and they don't have an easy answer of who's responsible. So, Colonel Rayfield, thank you.
So, Tammy, that's one where we've actually been physically out on the site through the issue resolution process. It's one that we're working with our partners to actually pilot that. So I don't have a good answer to look you in the eye at this moment, but I can tell you that your address is in my file I have in my hand. We're looking at it, and we're working through it because this is one of the challenging ones to make sure we do the right thing as best we can.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Mike. I appreciate it. So this actually ties to the question that was asked of Mike Oliphant about what's going on with the project to replace the water pipes, especially with the requirement for sprinklers. So I know Mike just clarified some of the requirements for sprinklers, but I just wanted to give you an update that the Redwood Valley Water District is still working on grant funding to do a replacement of their main pipelines and the laterals that connect to homes. But this actually is not going to be a quick enough process for many of you who are going through the rebuilding process right now. So there are a lot of short-term solutions or even longer-term solutions that you can employ on your own property to get the water that's necessary, and your local building official would provide, your local plan developer would provide those plans to, I'm going to ask Mike to come and explain this, to planning and building services of how you would meet those sprinkler requirements. So you don't have to wait for the water district's infrastructure improvements to move forward, but we want you to know that we're committed to helping support that process, because we know for the long-term health of the Redwood Valley, to have the water supply that's needed for all the homes, that it's the best thing for the infrastructure improvements that are needed. But in the short term, would you tell people what they could do?
In the short term, you would consult with the C16 contractor that I mentioned earlier. They would check your pressure. Depending on the design of your home, they would then design what pressure is needed to provide all of the sprinkler heads in your home. So some of your homes may have as little as 3 or 4 sprinkler heads, and some many more, depending on the design. So you would have to consult with the design professional, such as a sprinkler contractor.
So I know we have other questions. I actually don't know how many other questions. So if you have a question card, if you'd come up, and then we'll answer some additional ones.
Thank you, Tammy. The questioner says, I've already logged my complaint with the Army Corps of Engineers, and do I need to, or will they be forwarding my issue over to Cal OES? Now, I recognize this name, and we know your address, and guess what? It's high. and it's in our system, and we're still reviewing it. So thank you for your patience.
Well, if I can say, I emailed the Army Corps on April 4th, and I just had one person call me back saying that they got my email, but I think my email was a little more in-depth on saying, call me back so we can work through this together.
Yeah.
And I know that they've been out to the site, but haven't contacted me to meet them out there to show them the areas of concern, which I think that's good communication.
Yeah.
Because I might be looking at something different than you're looking at. So
We need to
I'd
do
like
it together.
Get it.
Right.
So, but
So I want the
want to make
homeowner-
sure my complaint, my issue is being forwarded.
Yes, your issue is, but I'd like to recommend that anybody else who isn't here today, your friends or whoever else, make sure they contact the county line or this other 800 line. So we just want to make sure we have...
It has on the county website, which on the February 27th board meeting, I watched board meetings on TV, they said go to the county website and you get all the emails and phone. The problem is with phone, is you don't have proof. Like I got my sent email. So in a lot of these things, I need to say, look, because I've called the Mendocino recovery place. I mean, the Tammy's office.
Sure.
I left a message April 4th too. I haven't heard anything. You know, so I'm just saying, having an email address, at least people can print it out and say, hey, I notified. And
you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you my email address. Okay. I will email you personally, and you're welcome to share it. So bottom line is...
Well, I don't get to talk to a lot of people. I don't, you know, I've got enough to do with my own stuff. I don't have enough to share. But what I really want to know is how are these complaints being funneled in?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So that you know.
So the first thing you should know is we have an 800 number that was established initially, like back in November, and all of those.
I called those twice.
Yeah, no, that's why I have your issue. Yeah.
I don't get responses.
Right.
I know you get them, but I don't get responses.
We hear you. Okay. We've got your issue. We're getting all of those issues, moving them over to our process, and we're going to be looking at those. So rest assured, we've got it. Jody personally knows who you are, and she's seen it. We're going to be looking at it. We'll send folks out to assess it. You can call the county again just to be sure.
But I didn't call the county. I emailed Army Corps. So why can't I get an email, simple 2-line email back saying we received your issue, we've logged it, you're in the queue, and we will be in touch. Why not?
I can't tell you why they haven't gotten back to you, but what I can tell you is we're responsible for it now. We've got it. They've shared it with us. We've got it, and we're going to act on it.
Then I ought to get an email saying
We'll get you an
referred to
email.
Cal OES, and here's their contact information.
Cal OES will send you an email that tells you we've got it and we're working on it. I understand. I understand.
But I understand too. You've got 7,000 homeowners.
That's not an excuse. There's 7,000 homeowners, but at the end of the day,
I know it's a
the loss
long
of your
process.
home is the most significant situation for you. So
Well, I understand I'm only one of many, and I'm a patient person. I haven't called her. I just come to the meeting and just bring it up that if you want good communication, then there has to be a 360 communication.
Absolutely.
I mean, I worked for a county for 26 years. I know how it goes. I know how government goes. And that's what really lacks is that little response of saying, hey, you know, here's the emails you email to let the people know we got it and they're in the queue.
we haven't done a good enough job of getting back to you and letting you know that, but I promise you we're gonna do a better job moving forward. We've got your issue. We can take a look at it.
Well, it's not Cal OES.
It is though, you know.
Now it is, but how about on April 4th?
It always has been us. We are a state and federal family trying to help your community recover. And when one member of our family doesn't do their job appropriately and getting back to you and acknowledging that they've got, it's a reflection on all of us. So we're all working together to make this right. And I assure you that we'll be getting out to your property, taking a look at it. And let you know.
But the thing is I wanted to be there.
I have been there with Lee Howard and several of your people and several of the OES and everybody and their brother, and they're all like, that's great. You guys left a fucking mound in my yard. Excuse my language. You guys left a mound in my yard in a trout pond where my house was. I'm out here mowing my lawn trying to keep it so it's not going to burn, and I'm finding freaking digs out in the middle of my field. Okay? This man over here has been coming up and calling us to go out there and meet with all the officials. Ms. Brown and all you other folks, you guys are doing a great job. But there's a lot of people that are being just basically frustrated and are losing it. I'm one of them. I'm constantly having chest pains because I'm trying to figure out how to build a house where I'm going to build, I have to bring in 100-something thousand yards of freaking dirt just to fill the divots in the trout ponds. And I can't do that until it stops raining. Because I already told your people not to go out there in their tractor, and they sunk it. Their backhoe, whatever, the Caterpillar. Yeah. The people up here are not ignorant. They're not ignorant rednecks. They're very smart. They're very astute people. And when somebody says, don't do something, you're going to have a reaction, like touch the fence, because you're going to get shot. Then don't do it. Your people, or whoever the contractor was that did it. They drove, I cameraed my leach field, where they drove over my damn leach field is gone. I'm finding more every day that I'm going out there. I'm finding cable machines stuck out of the metal stuck out of the dirt. I know there's a cable machine down there because that cable's 75 feet. Now I got to dig it out. Like this gentleman here. You guys buried it, or somebody buried it, not you guys. I'm not sending you out. All he would like to know is, hey, do I got to pay somebody $150 an hour to come out and dig up my tank? If it's not within 2 feet, then it goes a lot more.
Well, another thing, I sent the email on April 4th. February 5th, Mike Cochran called me from the Army Corps, said he was out at the property taking pictures, he was going to send it to Mark Ellis and Mark Swenson. Well, I specifically said in my email, contact me so I can meet you there. What about English does that not understand? Because he's out there taking pictures. It may not be what I see. He might see what he sees. And so I asked very specifically, those are the things where I want to say, okay, here and here and here and there. And then that way there's no guessing game where if they send somebody in to do something, they're not missing what I see. I think that's reasonable myself.
It's absolutely reasonable.
I think it's reasonable.
And I want to thank you both for sharing your concerns and your frustrations. I'm standing before you right now. I'm the senior state official in charge of all of our operations here. And what I'm hearing from you in terms of our ability or lack thereof to communicate and coordinate with you is unacceptable. We as a state are going to be working on this issue of overscrapes. You've got other issues. And rest assured, I am going to be working with Lieutenant Colonel Rayfield and his team to ensure that we are promptly addressing those issues. At the end of the day, there may be some issues that we can't resolve to your satisfaction. But we at least owe you clear communication, timely communication. And I commit to you that in the next couple of weeks, that's going to happen.
Well, I know it's really hard as personnel come in organizations and as personnel go out of organizations. People do not have a USB port in their brain to get a brain dump of the organizational knowledge. People have to relearn it every time they go in and out of a position and stuff. So I understand the challenges. It's just basic humanity.
I appreciate very much the outs that you're trying to give us all here, but they're not acceptable. We've got I understand, but we've got processes in place to ensure that when one official leaves Mendocino County and is replaced by somebody else, that information and those issues are being transitioned appropriately. And so if that hasn't happened, and it sounds like in some cases maybe it hasn't, we're going to be working on that.
Well, you know, I think it's just going to happen more and more in the future. Because so many people with the knowledge are retiring, dying, and there's not enough young people to relearn all this stuff. So, anyway, thank you for listening.
Thanks. I wanted to just follow that with Karen and Mike's situation. Is actually, we know they're not alone, and there are many other people in the room even today and who aren't here tonight who've been waiting a long time for an answer. And so that's why we have this new commitment today from the state to work directly with the county to try to address first these things that you've been waiting way too long for answers for. And so I want to share some of the other comments. I have just 5 more question cards, so you have kind of a few more minutes if you have any last questions. So very much like Karen and Mike, it's been 6 months since the fire took my house and possessions. It's been 5 months since the Army Corps contractors destroyed part of my property. What do I have to do to get my 500 to 1,000 yards of dirt back? I should have been able to move back to my property in December. And I know many of you are in that same situation, and that's why we have this commitment to expedite this process now. I want over-scraping that you've been waiting way too many months to have a solution for, and why we're going to work quickly for those of you who have this complaint, and then to process through with the state this new process to try to answer questions, because we know there are more people who haven't been as ready to build or don't have the knowledge that Mike has to know what he's looking for out there on the property as he's going through it. And so they're going to be identifying those issues, and it's why we're working closely with the resource room, so that as people share concerns in the resource room, they can flag those as concerns that might be about over-excavating, or they might be something else that should be on the punch list for U.S. Army Corps to address for follow-up. So I do want to ask this other question that will require Eric and maybe Colonel Rayfield as well. This person says, my understanding of the parameters of how deep the initial scrapes would be was that it was going to be 3 to 6 inches, and then testing would follow, and re-scrapes only if necessary after testing. Why aren't the results of testing given to the owners so that they can verify if re-scrapes were needed or not needed? So I'm going to ask Colonel first, and then...
So the soil testing is done for the Corps of Engineers. We have a contract. We do it to the Cal standard. And what we do is we do a quality assurance check. I have a PhD in environmental engineering who looks at each one of the tests to make sure that they're done correctly. What we ask for is we've asked Mendocino County, which they've taken us up on, is they're going to go through the process with us tomorrow so that the public health professionals within Mendocino County have the exact same knowledge so that they know what it looks like. What we will do is we hand over at the end, when all the physical work is done, all of the test results will go through FEMA to the state, and they'll get every one of the soil tests. So what we do is when we get the first soil test back and it passes the standards for how the process was administered, we send the letter to the county so they know right off the bat that we've processed the test results are valid, and that we're going to roll that up into a partial completion report. But we also want to make sure that the local county knows what we're doing, so that's why we invited Mendocino County down to come and see it, so that some of those questions can also get answered locally. So we're trying to be transparent in the process. It's a real topical answer, but the short version is we check to make sure the soil test is done in accordance with the standard, we validate it, and then we send a letter to the county so the county knows that it's done. At the end, all of the soil results for every soil sample test will be provided through FEMA to the state.
Just to add to that, maybe Cowboys can add that process once it gets provided to the state, what that looks like. This individual also asked, why can't I see the records now of what amounts of debris were taken from my property?
Good evening, folks. My name is Sean Smith. I'm the statewide debris coordinator for Cal OES. So once we get the test results, which will come back as what we're calling a partial clearance report, PCR, will be what it is from the Army Corps. It'll come to the state, and the state will pass those back out to you as the survivors through the county. In that package, it will have your testing results. It will also have, and I need to circle back to the Colonel on this one, because this kind of caught me off guard, but I'll make sure it's in there. If your first test was in there, you had a first test on your property and it failed, that test result will be in there also. It should be, I'm assuming it's going to be, but I'll make sure it is. So you'll have both results. You'll have your first one where there was a fail. It'll tell you what it failed for on the property, but then there's also going to be the final clearance that shows you that it is a clearance. That will tie directly into if there was a rescrape done on your property, you know why it was done. Currently, I will be over, just for you folks that will have the backfilling I'll be overseeing that project, and I will be reaching out, or one of my team members will be reaching out to you directly regarding that site, regarding your home site to fill it. Once we get that, get all the test results back, you will be provided all of that. And the reason that you don't get the rescrape, the reason why we don't pass that out, it's not really, we don't feel the parcel's ready yet. So we know already it's not meeting the criteria that we agreed to with the counties. So the rescrape would have to happen. So it's not one of those things that we would normally have given you the rescrape and say, hey, we have, you failed the test on the rescrape and we're going to come back. It's just a normal part of the process.
How come we can't get the amount of dirt to it? I'm missing 3 feet of dirt where I didn't have instruction.
It will be.
And I've been doing this every freaking meeting, getting a different person, a different colonel telling me, blow smoke up my butt. Oh yeah, we'll take care of it. And I'm still not back on my property.
So in the parcel clearance reports, now these are not something that's going to come right away. It's going to be a little while, so if anybody
Pay the contractors to take the dirt.
I understand, but not, hang on, let me finish this.
Wait on, I'm waiting for
Bear with me. It takes a little bit of time for us to get all, you have to understand, we're government, we don't work fast. Federal government, state government, by no means do we work fast. So we have to reconcile our payments to our contractors before we can put that back out.
Why would you pay them to take all the dirt and now I got to pay to bring it back?
You're not going to pay to bring the dirt back. There's not going to be, for any of the dirt that we're going to bring.
I've already paid for dirt, now you want me to go get a tractor. That's what this gentleman said. Gee, you get free dirt, you can go get a tractor and spray it yourself.
I apologize. That's not how it's going to work. If you were overscraped, please, get into the county, get your name in, and we'll backfill it with. There's no cost to you, to the homeowner.
I've been hearing this for 4 months.
Okay. Well, the state at this point, OES has taken the operation, and we will make it right and fill it. Please make sure that you're on the county's list. Okay, then I'll come back out. We'll come back out and take care of it. It's not going to be a very slow process. We're going to move very quickly, as Tammy said. So, when we're done here, I'll give you my card. You and I can talk, and you can call me. And same thing, Ms. Hart. I do have your information already, but.
Thank you, Sean. So I know we're working closely to make sure if we know your name is on the list, we are making sure CalES has you on that list. And again, if you don't know that we have you on their list, we want to make sure you provide that information tonight. So in the back of the room, actually, there are 2 gentlemen in blue shirts behind Carmel back here, William and John. And they actually have a clipboard that they can take down your information tonight, and they can help validate if you have a question, if you're on the list already. So Karen, before I get to you, I'm going to answer these 2, and then we'll take any final questions in the room. So this person asked about a vehicle that's still on the property. And it belonged to a renter, and they're asking what happens with it. So if the vehicle was burned in the fires, there's a process, and really if you have any burned vehicles, we want to make sure we report those because they actually should have been removed already as part of the debris removal operation. So please let us know, and if this is about a vehicle that wasn't burned in the fires, then we should, this person can talk to me afterwards, and I'll try to connect you with a resource for that. And then the final question I have here, Zoe, are there any other questions? Thanks. Is about the new kayak campground opening for people who have FEMA trailers. And this individual is saying that, asking about the trailers that are out through FEMA at kayak campground, and if they're going to get internet, because right now they don't have good internet connection. It says the fire survivors are not able to get phone reception or use services they need on the internet for work. So this was just identified as an issue, and we have CalOES working with the county and our broadband partners here. Do you want to share anything else about that, Jody?
Sure. The idea was we would wait until the last person moved out of the Fairfields and then moved into the kayak campground before moving the equipment. So now that we're all moved in, we emailed some people today and said it's time to move that equipment over. So we are committed to moving that free Wi-Fi over too, and it's happening now. So. Okay.
And then this is just a follow-up question about what's being done to incentivize or require landowners to address burned or dead trees or vegetation that could be used as fuel in the next fire season. And our local and countywide Fire Safe Council is working on strategies around how to get good information out. It really does take a lot of work on individual property owners' parts and us working as neighbors together to address vegetation management. And so I know that this is a big topic of a discussion because, as I said earlier, there's not an easy solution. But we're fortunate that our local conservation district is helping lead up those Fire Safe Council discussions. And certainly if you have ideas about this, Zoe and I would want to hear as we try to connect up people who have ideas about how to address particularly burned trees or vegetation that died through the fire and how we can address that as a community. So I wanted to see if there's any other questions in the room that didn't get answered. I know, Karen, did you have something else?
Well, the gentleman referred to when they scrape the site and test the soil and re-scrape it. Our pit looks like biscuit dough. Y'all know what biscuit dough looks like? Peaks, valleys, stiff.
Yeah.
I don't think our property was scraped.
So I actually appreciate you bringing up this, Karen, because I did want to answer this. It was tied to one of the earlier questions. So sometimes we have this questionnaire, do you think too much soil was taken? But in this case, it's really unclear, but it certainly doesn't look like the neighbor's property. It doesn't look like, it's hard to know it was re-scraped. And we've heard at least of a scenario where there's a concern that as the re-scraping happened, where even people know the contractor came out more than once to do a re-scraping and then moved around dirt and it didn't seem quite appropriate. So those should definitely be reported as issues through the U.S. Army Corps number, and you can certainly give those tonight to William and John and they'll take that down for follow-up as well. But we definitely have issues like that on the issue resolution list, and we know we'll see more as we address the over-excavation questions. So with that, we're going to be here to answer any individual questions that people have tonight, and we have more information out in the lobby, so please stay as long as you need to, and we'll be here.